Hello, everybody, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am the company's expert, and today we're going to be talking about side hustles. What else? It's Monday, so that means we must be here. And we're going to be talking about how you can start a side hustle if that's a goal of yours, and how to run a side hustle and what it takes. And I've started naming these episodes. So this one, I believe, is called What Stops You from Starting? And I want to hear from you. So if you're here, if you're in the chat, get in the chat and tell me if you are wanting to start a side hustle, what is preventing you from just going and doing it? A lot of the times these barriers are largely psychological, and they are acquired skills. Doing this kind of stuff is an acquired skill. If you learn this, it will help you not only in your career, not only directly in terms of making money on the side, but it'll be a lot of transportable skills, transferable skills that will help you in pretty much anything you want to do, including a regular career. Okay, that's the great thing about this. So whichever path you choose in life in terms of making income, whether you are the type of person that just wants a regular job, it will help you with that. Or if you're the type of person that wants to just be an entrepreneur and have your own business and not play by the rules, do the conventional thing, this will obviously help you in that too. So get in the chat and let me know. I am going to basically feed off whatever you guys say in the chat. We're going to talk about this together. I don't really have much of an agenda or a plan here. Ann Smith says, don't know what to do as a side hustle, need options. Okay, excellent. Listen, Ann, you bring up an excellent point. Okay, the title of this is called Side Hustle Ideas. Now, I have looked at what other people do when they talk about side hustles. And what they do is they suggest things. They say, go and sell candy, go and do drop shipping, go and wash cars, go and mow lawns, like things like this. They give you actual ideas and, that's fine. But the thing is, what is a wonderful thing about this world of getting into business, okay? Because that's what really we're doing. We're getting into a business. We're doing business on an extremely small scale. The wonderful thing about it is that you can create a solution that is tailored to you. Okay, so for example, let's say you're not the type of person that loves to go up and just talk to strangers, and say, hey, are you looking for this? Well, I could do that for you. It's only $10. Come on, $10. That kind of thing. You're not that type of person. That doesn't really come naturally. And the thought of doing that is kind of repulsive, right? If you're that type of person. Well, the great thing about this is that you can adapt whatever you do to serve you. There's ways of doing that and getting customers and providing a thing, whether it's a product or a service, that doesn't require that. But yet you still make money and you still deliver some value and it's enjoyable, or certainly it's tolerable. Okay? That's the great thing about it. So you want ideas? What can you do? Okay? You could do products or you could do services. Let's talk about services because they're the easiest thing to do. What do you know how to do? And this can range from anything that's unskilled, okay? Like what would be an example of something unskilled that you could provide? What the other cliche they talk about with side hustles, you could walk dogs, you could watch bikes while people are at the game. You could sell canned drinks or candy or snacks at like a local sporting event, a local amateur community sporting event, whatever, right? Those are completely unskilled. I can pretty much guarantee you that you have everything you need to be able to do that, right? But let's talk about something a little more interesting, something that's a little more tailored to you. What skills and what can you do that you know how to do that maybe not every other person knows how to do? Let's start with that. What talents do you have? Providing that in exchange for money is basically a side hustle. That's where we start about thinking about these things. Okay, so we're going to be talking about more of that stuff as we go through this stream, various different things that you could do. NRoz MX400, I love your name and I remember you from last time. Hi, Bill. For me personally, I'd love to do a side hustle, but I'm stopped by pursuing a regular job first so I can have some financial security first. Yes, that is a very, very common thing because we all got to eat and, we got to pay rent and, other expenses and things too. So that obviously comes first, and it should come first, in my opinion. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you to just risk everything to start up something on your own. That's not really the wise thing to do. That comes first. Now, hopefully, if you're just starting a job, you might need all your time and energy and effort to go to establishing yourself and learning your job, your day job. Okay, fair enough. But if you've been there a little while, you're over the learning curve, you don't come home after a day at work completely drained, you have a little bit of energy left over, okay? Then you can think about what you might want to do on the side, okay? If you're that type of person, you might want to do that. And you could start by thinking about an extension of what you do in your day job, okay? That's another sort of gold mine to figure out what to do, as Ann Smith was asking about earlier, what to do. But NROS MX400, don't feel too guilty about not starting for that reason, because that you are putting a higher priority first, okay? You do need some income to come in, okay? Now, if you are between jobs, depending on your situation and how comfortable doing this you might be, that might be the thing that kicks you out of your complacency, as it were, and gets you to finally start something, okay? But if you're trying to do your day job, that's perfectly understandable. Listen, it's a matter of getting comfortable with your day job, having it not be all consuming. And then when you have energy and effort left over, then you can put it towards this. Mikey says, hi, Bill. Hi, Mikey. Ann Smith says, I'm a physician assistant, but looking for less stress side hustle. Okay. Now, physician, right? So we're in the medical profession. Now, I'm not in the medical profession. However, I do understand that it's very, very regulated, usually in most countries. So there's some constraints on what you can do. You can start something up. For example, if you were like a doctor, you can start up your own practice, right? I don't know if that qualifies as a side hustle if you work in a hospital or something, but that would be the obvious thing. If you are lower down, maybe you're a nurse or you're an orderly or whatever, there's stuff you can do. But, services and stuff, like what can you do? If you have specialized skills, who would require those skills, right? Who would be willing to pay for them? And where would those be? That's where you would start thinking about that kind of stuff. Rusty Guy says, I think self-employed domestic cleaning services are fairly low cost at entry level. Yeah, they're low cost. Now, it also depends where you want to end up and what's your goals here, because there's a lot of really entry-level, low-paying things you could do as a side hustle. Now, for a lot of people, that's fine, okay? If you're young, that's fine. Because number one, the just doing something on the side is going to be a step up for you. It's going to teach you a hell of a lot. And it doesn't really matter too much what you do. You're going to learn, you're going to step into this world, okay? You're going to understand how to sell something, how to provide something, how to listen to potential customers, okay? And how to spot a need and how to fill that need. These are all incredibly useful things to be able to be tuned into, okay? So if you're young, sure. But if you are, say, in your 30s or your 40s, let's say you have a day job or you've had like a career that's, a little bit more upscale, okay? You may want to set your sights a bit higher, okay? But if you have skills in that area or you just like doing that stuff, then there you go. That's something you could definitely do. Mikey says, how to respond to the question, how does your experience and value relate to the position? Okay, so we're talking about jobs now. Well, we're talking about side hustles here, Mikey. That's kind of not really a part of this. Dumpling Abroad says, I want to have photography and YouTube side hustles, but I don't want to ruin photography as my hobby by having it monetized. Okay, yeah, excellent question. Or excellent point, I should say. Yes, you are absolutely correct. That is something that does happen, okay? What a lot of people would like to do, and some people actually end up doing this, is they turn their hobby into some kind of side hustle, sometimes into a full-fledged business. And the risk, of course, as you say here, is that you suck all the enjoyment out of the hobby, because now it's more than a hobby, it's a business, right? That is a thing that happens. That's something to ward against, okay? So that is going to shape how you go about doing the hobby as a business, okay? Because in my experience, there are two things that motivates a person when they are in this situation. Number one is actually doing their hobby, okay? So if you like photography, this is an excuse for you to do more photography. So that can motivate somebody. The other thing that can motivate a person is seeing it become successful and money starts to roll in. And that in itself is, it's enough to get you excited about doing it, okay? So you can suck all the fun out of the hobby, as it were, but if you're making a ton of money doing it, that keeps the excitement in it. That's something that I've experienced and I've seen others experience. But basically, the answer to that question is going to be, what limits do you set for yourself? Okay. So for example, if you want to do photography, and let's say one of the most lucrative, most profitable areas of doing photography is, say, I don't know, doing wedding photography or something. You start doing wedding photography and you quickly find that you got to deal with a lot of people that are unpleasant to deal with. Maybe they're all stressed out and they're very demanding and they're very particular, or they're hard to deal with, and it ruins the experience for you. Okay, maybe you find that. You can, obviously, I mean, this is kind of self-evident. You have to set parameters and say, look, I've got a taste of that. I know I can make money doing that, but it's killing this hobby of mine, and that's too great a price to pay. So I'm going to dial that back, and I'm going to do photography only for these situations and these types of clients and things like that. Okay, you have to be able to spot that when it starts happening and then be able to dial it back and make changes, because that is a thing. Now, the other kind of part of this is that what a lot of people will tell you is that, you know, it's not going to be fun all the time if it's a business, right? That's just how it goes. But at least with a side hustle, you can pick and choose, and you can shape it quite a bit and choose on what terms you're going to do this, because, you know, you have the luxury of it being sort of not your main income. So that's something good there. Where were we here? You're absolutely welcome, NROS MX400. Triton67 says, I love how Google knows I'm starting a company and advertises this stream to me. Working on a business plan now. Okay, good. Rusty Guy says, as long as your income doesn't rely on the photography, that might keep it enjoyable and no pressure for it to be successful. Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, you can do it on your own terms. That's the great thing. But the good part of it, like the sort of thing, I've said a bunch of negatives. Here's the positive thing. As you do it, okay, you learn a little bit about the nature of that business, namely making money with photography. And so as you go further down that road, you have more and more control. You can shape how you do it. So you can end up doing it on your own terms and hopefully retain a lot of the enjoyment and passion that you feel for, say, photography. But still, you know, you're doing it as a profitable business venture, right? You're doing it as a money-making thing. So there you go. Dumpling abroad. That was amazing. Thank you. Are you talking to me? If you are, thank you very much. I'm quite surprised, actually. But yeah, there's a lot of things. Like, we're talking about side hustle ideas. And as I always say, like, there's so many things out there. So last Thursday, when I did the last episode of this, after I finished doing the podcast, and I was at home, and I got a knock on the door, and it was two little kids, and they, like, it's still snowing where I am, and they said, you know, can we shovel your driveway for $10? And I thought, like, wow, you know, that's good. I was just talking about entrepreneurial type thinking and this sort of stuff. And I mean, these kids, they must have been like, they were like under 10. They were like 8 or 9 or something like that. And I think that's great. You know, that's how people start. Now, what are they doing? They're doing something that you could say is unskilled. How much training do you need to shovel a driveway? Not very much, right? It's something that pretty much anyone can do. Okay. The only equipment you need is a shovel. And if you don't have one in a cold climate, you're unusual. But if you don't have one, you can buy one for, I don't know, $20. And the reason that you get business is because you go out and you ask. They're knocking on doors and they're saying, do you want this? I'm right here. I can provide you with this. It looks like you need it, right? How about it? And a lot of times when people say yes and they make a sale of their service, right? They do it not because they're the only person in the city that can shovel a driveway. They do it because they're the ones right in the face of the potential client asking, right? That's why they get some cash. That's why it works for them, okay? So a lot of the point I'm trying to make here is that, first of all, a lot of the reasons why people don't start this, they kind of want to do a side hustle, but they don't really start, is because it takes that ability to go up and ask people to say, hey, I can provide this. Do you want it? A lot of people, psychologically, they won't even take that first step. Oh, I'm too shy, or I feel nervous. I'm out of my comfort zone. I've never done that in my life. And I would feel pushy and I would feel kind of slimy, kind of trying to force myself on somebody. And I know for a lot of people, that's a real stumbling block. That's a real factor that prevents them from getting started. And the first thing, if that's you, the first thing is to realize that, look, it's not pushy. It's not unreasonable. It's not uncommon. Okay. And if you do it in a very sort of professional, appropriate way, and especially if you go to the right person, you're talking to someone who it would be appropriate to talk to. In my example, the two little kids were talking to the appropriate person, the person that lives in a house with a driveway that's filled with a bunch of snow, right? So there's no question of, is it inappropriate for them to ask you this? No, of course, it's perfectly appropriate. And they're not doing it in an intrusive way or they're not pestering anybody, but that's kind of the entrepreneurial spirit, mindset, whatever you want to call it, that ability to go up and say, hey, do you want this? I can provide it for you. And there's nothing unscrupulous about it. There's nothing dishonest about it. It's like, no, I'm willing to do this. I can do it. I'm offering to do it. Everything's completely above board. Everything's completely reasonable. So it's just getting that courage, if you want to call it that, or the realization that it's perfectly okay to do this. That's what a lot of people, I believe, stops them from even starting, is because they don't have that. They don't realize that. But it's really a smokescreen. It's just a psychological barrier. It's nothing real, Dumpling Abroad says, yes, it was aimed at you. Definitely needed to hear that. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad that. And as I say, I don't have a script or an agenda of what to say here. So I'm feeding directly off what you guys are saying in the comments. So if you have any questions or you're wondering something, shoot it my way. Rusty Guy says, if you have a full-time job, would the online sector be more suitable for any potential side hustle due to potential burnout? Yes, Rusty Guy. That's kind of, there's a lot of people out there talking about, side hustles that are, usually service-based. You can just provide a service, and they're in the sort of physical world. And I mean that in the sense that it's not online. Like the example I just gave of some knocking on somebody's door and saying, hey, can I mow your lawn or shovel your driveway or, that kind of thing. That's in the real world. It's not online. If you have a full-time job, yes, you have to work around that, obviously. So you can't be, if you have a typical day job, you can't be out during the day knocking on doors. You would have to do it in the evening. But if you're doing it online, the great thing is you got two amazing advantages online. And that is that you can reach a lot more people than you would physically, okay? And number two, you can reach people that are not in your geographic location. So you could provide a service globally, right? If any country or any region of the world that speaks your language would be a potential market for you where you could sell your thing. Yeah, there's some definite advantages there. And I also like it because it's an easy way in for a lot of introverted type people. Okay, roughly 50% of the people in the world are introverts. That simply means that you can do social interaction, but it's not what you do for fun. You need to recharge at the end of the day. I'm an introvert. I'm actually a major introvert. My life has been a sort of journey of gradually coming out of your shell a bit and, being more and more comfortable talking with people and interacting with people. And I feel I've successfully done that. And it's ironic that I'm here sort of talking to the world. But yeah, it's a great advantage, especially for introverted people. You don't have to get in somebody's face, physically and talk to them if that's something that's preventing you from starting. Right? People have this preconceived notion that I've got to be like the stereotypical used car salesman with the highly fashionable suit and, just being this kind of, fast talking, silver tongued devil, No, you don't have to do that at all. You state what you can do. You state why somebody would need it. Right? And as long as they trust that you will deliver on it, if it makes sense for them, they will pay you. Most things work like that. So online sector for potential side hustle due to potential burnout. I don't know if it solves the burnout thing, unless it's like, if you're an introverted type and it's just too much talking to people face to face, too much of that. But it definitely solves that problem. Well, thank you, Tristan67. That's very nice. Thomas White says, I'm building a marine program at the moment. I've been thinking about pricing. Difficult to find this info. Any suggestions on finding this sort of information? Okay, so marine program. What do you mean by marine program? Like renting out boats or something? A lot of just the general piece of advice that comes from this is that a really good side hustle comes from being on the inside of something. So if you've ever, let's pretend for a second that it's like renting out boats, okay? Taking people for boat rides, whatever. If you have done that yourself, okay, so you have a history of renting boats from other people. Okay, you know how it works, you know the pricing, you know what to expect, you know the points that the customer cares about, right? Things like that. That really informs you if you're going to try and do that activity yourself. Okay. Additionally, if you've offered that service before, you got a day job offering that service, working in a boat rental company, something like that. Obviously that gives you a real good insight into how it's run, what are the challenges on the seller's side. Things like pricing, things like all the cost structure, all that, it can give you some real insights into that. So you have an advantage if you're on the inside of it. That's why they say when you're younger, go get a job, because even if you want to start your own company someday and have your own company or whatever, you will learn so much by being inside and just being able to observe from the inside what goes on. That gives you some real insights into how that industry works or how that business works. Dumpling abroad. Introverts unite from the comfort of our own homes. Yeah. Yes, that's absolutely true. Rusty Guy, that's a really great point. Deanne Ranzi says, proud introvert here. Yes. Look, number one, not to sort of do the, I don't know what you call this, like the motivational speech thing or whatever, but number one, if you're an introvert, there's two things you should know. All introverts should know these two things, okay? Number one, just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you're bad at social interaction. Okay, let me tell you, there's a lot of extroverts that are terrible at social interaction. The difference is that they love it. They do it all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're good. Okay? There's a lot of extroverts that know a lot of people, but they have a very shallow relationship with each one, and it doesn't run very deep, that relationship. There's not a lot of trust there, not a lot of familiarity there, not a lot of confidence in the other person there. Okay? Introverts, you can do social interaction every bit as good as an extrovert. Okay? This is something that not many people talk about. The other thing is that you have potential to have a lot better quality social interaction, okay? You don't just deal with the superficialities. You can go a little bit deeper. Maybe you're a little bit more selective. Maybe you're a little more, it takes you a while to come out of your shell a bit, but the quality of the interaction can be better, okay? So use that to your advantage. Second thing that everyone needs to know who's an introvert that might be feeling a bit of stress or you feel marginalized by extroverts in this extroverted world we live in is that number one, all the innovation in this world that doesn't directly relate to social interaction, every bit of information, every science, technology, everything, it's done by introverts, ladies and gentlemen. Look at all the great inventors that have invented things, that have discovered things in science, medicine, whatever. Look at them all. They're all introverts. I mean, half of them are crazy, but they're introverts, right? If you didn't have introverts, I think we'd be using square wheels still and not having discovered fire. So, we're the people that moves the world forward, okay? So give yourself a little pat on the back, okay? Now, you can certainly do this. Yes, it requires a little social interaction, but it's actually very simple to learn. It's a skill like any other. And if you have social anxiety, you can always start with something online, okay? You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to pick up a phone and talk to anyone. You don't have to go up and, meet someone and shake their hand or bump elbows or whatever we do nowadays. You don't have to do any of that. Okay? So, I mean, you guys are the best at figuring out technical problems, so you can figure out this problem. Ann Smith says, thank you for the confidence for introverts. Yeah, it's true. I ran my own company and I'm an introvert. I mean, you got to learn some skills to take it to the next level, like with interacting with people and stuff, but it's really not rocket science. Julien says, I'm late today. Thanks. Thanks to my cat leaving the house. She came back just now. Well, that's good. Dumpling Abroad. Boss makes $1, you make a dime. Might as well watch an amazing stream during work time. That's good. It's a song, right? You can dance to it. Thanks for your great advice. My pleasure. My pleasure. I think I'm just telling you stuff that I think you guys already know deep down. Paula, I observer first before I talk to people. Observe. Yes, I observe first before I talk to people. That's kind of like I think before opening my mouth. That's a very good trait. There's nothing more annoying than someone that just comes up to you and talks all about them, and they clearly have no idea of who the hell you are, or even the fact that the thing that they're speaking to you about is totally inappropriate. It's academic. It doesn't apply to you. If they'd taken 2 seconds to see who you were, they would realize that what they're about to say doesn't make any sense. It's out of context. It's like trying to sell sunglasses to somebody you can't see, something like that. It's just pointless. Tristan says, I'm going for tech because I enjoy making electronics and coding. So I'm going for manufacturing in China, selling on Amazon, managed to get that store open. General advice for e-commerce. Well, listen, all business, including e-commerce or whatever you're doing, if you're doing, like you say, tech, I mean, that I don't know what that means in this context. That could be many, many different things. It's about delivering value for people. Like, for example, if you're more of an electronics type person, one of the things that's kind of blown me away, just having observed this stuff for 40 years, is when I was like a teenager, something I would do is I would play with electronics. I would make little circuits with transistors and circuit boards and stuff like that. And it was all very homespun. You'd buy components and create little things. And, now it's amazing how far the world has come, because now you can get CAD software for cheap. You can run it on your computer. You could design a circuit. It interfaces directly with the manufacturers and all this halfway around the world. You can basically say print, and it will create this circuit board Or to go even further, it'll create the entire product, like with an enclosure and a box and buttons and switches on it. And you could just dream this up and design it and then bam, create it and have it sent to you. And therefore, by extension, you could sell that as a product to other people. So if you create some little box that does something, and I think I was talking something about this previously on a previous live stream, where like, okay, this box, it allows you to connect, I don't know, a VCR or some device to your computer via USB or something like that. Like whatever, some little gizmo that does something. If there's a lot of people out there that want to do that, there you go. All you have to do now is learn the selling part, the marketing part. How do we reach those people? Who are they? What do we have to say to them to convince them to buy it? It might be as simple as, here, this is the box. There's a picture of it. It's got this jack or plug on one side. It's got that jack or plug on the other side. Play your VCR on USB, like whatever. And then the price, something like that. That's the whole message. And then if you could get that in front of your audience and you figure out the channel over which to do that, it could be a post in a group. It could be a tweet. It could be a hashtag. It could be, whatever. It's like, bam, you get a lot of business. So there you go. Just absolutely amazing. That industry it's now so easy to do that stuff that I kind of don't want to get into it because it's like the stuff I know, all the homespun stuff, it's no longer applicable. It was left in the dust like decades ago. So anyway, you were saying your question was general advice for e-commerce. Well, anyone can put up a store. Okay, putting up a store is not hard. It's a very mechanical type task. Okay, the real challenge is convincing people to buy. That's always been the challenge. It's the number one challenge for any kind of business venture. Okay, and you basically have to, like, the study of that is marketing. That's what marketing is. And marketing answers three fundamental questions. One, who are my potential customers? Who are these people? Where are they? Okay. Right? Number two, how do I reach those people? What's the best way to reach them to convince them to do business with me? Right? If you can't reach them, or it's like prohibitively expensive to reach them, then it's not going to work. But usually you can. Like if they're online and they go to different sites or they do social networking here and, they look at this and look at that, right? You can reach them. And then the third question is, what's the message? What do you need to communicate to them to get them to do business with you? So that's what marketing answers. It answers those three questions. So if you're doing tech, you got an online store, that's great. Okay, great. You've got, the mechanism there. You've got your assets in place. But now you have to actually do the marketing function, the selling of it. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for any business, including side hustles, right? Okay. With online stuff like this, it's slightly harder than going up to people and saying, hey, you want to buy this, right? Like, for example, let's say there was an electronics store. We used to have things like Radio Shack. If you wanted to, you could, I suppose, you could go to people when they were like at the mall or whatever, and you could put up a sign, or you could put up a pamphlet on the counter of the Radio Shack where people, pay for their goods or whatever. I mean, whatever. You could go to people in person and get this message across. Okay. Presumably that would be your target market. And if you knew what to say, that might do it. But it's a lot easier to do it online. The potential payoff is greater because you can reach a lot more people and do a lot more business. But figuring out how to do that is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Okay, exactly what to say and exactly where to, or how to send out that message. The great way to start off for anything is to look what other people are doing. That's a great first step. How do other people in doing this type of tech that you do, how do they get the message out about their product? Okay, so that would be a good starting point. Yeah, so there you go. So I have to wrap up in like a minute. So I want to thank everybody here. There was 34 of you guys. There's now 20 of you guys here. Thank you for being here. You're all awesome. I will be back on Thursday with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. And I'm actually going to be doing live streams all this week. Tomorrow, I have another strange new thing called Why Are Bosses Bad? So at the same time tomorrow, I'll be talking about that. If you have any horror stories about your boss or what to do about it, consider checking out my live stream there. Other than that, I'll be back on Thursday with more Side Hustle Ideas. Thanks for being here. Best of luck in the future. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you pretty soon. Take care.